Okay. Oh, lights, okay. All right. I call now for approval of the agenda as written. Are there any objections to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Next, I ask for approval of the meeting minutes as listed, March 12th, March 22nd, March 28th, March 28th, Part 2. Are there any objections to those minutes as posted? Hearing none, minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. I have a brief report of the chair this morning. First of all, I want to welcome Kathy Bravata as our representative to the VMS board. Kathy has been on boards of other condo and co-op associations in parts of California, and her expertise and her enthusiasm, willingness, energy will be a great attribute, I think, in her board activities. She joins Cynthia Rupert and Manny Robledo as the three united representatives on the VMS board. Secondly, I would ask those who are listening in the audience, personally or electronically, the question, is it your turn? Is it your turn to work for the community in a board capacity or a committee capacity? We're going to be approving, I hope later today, the election cycle. It's here before you know it. And once again, we will be looking to elect members to the board of directors. This year, there will be 4 people who need to be joining the board or continuing on the board, as the case may be. And before you know it, we will be starting with receiving applications. Applications will need to be in by June 28th. The election festivities will run over the summer from June to August, and then the voting will begin in the month of September, and the final count will be done on the 27th of September. So please, if you have any inclination whatsoever to join us in the important work that we do for the community, please consider it. All manner of talent, experience are needed. So please don't feel that you haven't done this before, therefore you can't do it now. Please consider it, and when you see the notices in the blast and in the breeze and in other places, consider submitting your application. So with that, I will now turn it over to an open forum. At this time, members may address the board of directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board. Board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for open forum to 30 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum. Speakers may not give cede their time to other people. No audio or video recording, please, by attendees, and no rude or threatening comments. And members can attend also by Zoom and by email if they wish. So, Paul, do we have any speakers?
Yes, our first speaker is Chris Collins.
Hi, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chris Collins, 3306Q, and I'm here with a report to update you on the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, which we do on behalf of residents who are experiencing temporary financial crisis. Don't let someone scam you. Avoid financial exploitation. We have all heard those horror stories of older people being scammed. A romantic interest who absconds with money, a fake grandchild calling for help, a contractor who doesn't finish a job after being paid. As older adults, and we have to prepare for the inevitable, and we know that they can be taken advantage of. As a result, it's increasingly important that we learn about the dangers of financial exploitation and steps that we can take to protect ourselves. Many of us think that we are tuned in to avoiding scams, but financial exploitation can take many different forms. The next broadcast in the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village televised series, which is entitled Planning for the Inevitable, will look at these issues specifically, since older adults can be vulnerable to financial exploitation. Because of physical limitations, lack of transportation, and a more limited circle of friends, older adults need to become more sophisticated about protecting themselves. Do you know what steps you can take to protect yourself? What are some of the common scams? How big is the problem? Where can we turn for help if someone, for example, the person that has your durable power of attorney is stealing from you? What should we watch for? These questions and related issues will be focus of the Foundation's next broadcast, which will be aired on the Village Television starting all Saturdays in April at 12 noon. You can tune in to hear Carrie Lloyd, who's a financial advisor, discuss these issues. Carrie Lloyd has 30 years of experience in financial services and is currently a vice president and special needs consultant with the Index Fund Advisors, which is located here in Irvine. If you want to view this broadcast on your own schedule, it's also available on the Foundation website, which is the foundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org, and it's under a special tab, which is Planning for the Inevitable. This website section includes YouTube links for this broadcast and for all of the earlier ones. So if you have any questions, please refer to the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village.com website, and for more information for the foundation, please go to that website. And please know that donations can always be made using PayPal or credit cards on the foundation website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Azar Asghari.
Good morning, board member. Great to see all of you. Before I start, my name is Azar Asghari. I have been the former board member and treasurer of the United. I wanted to thank all of you that's sitting there and spending hours and hours volunteer without a penny and doing a very, very sensitive job and responsibility, and a special thanks to the staff. I am here to talk about something that is not in the agenda, and that's about a property tax that's collecting. The issue is if you are having a home outside of the United, or even in the third, right here, the first payment and second payment of the property tax is equal from the county. So as you know, all of you, that the fiscal year for the tax is started from July 1st of one year and goes all the way to the June 30th of the next year. And these are exactly divided by 2 6 months. And both of these 6 months payment from the county is the same by penny. I mean exactly. However, when you look at your paper, you can go home and do your homework today. You can see that VMS collecting separately, different. And there was an example that one of the hard worker, I should say, which I have respect a lot in the finance department, send an email to everyone. And if you grab that example and see, you can see that was example of one person, one unit out of 6,223 units. The difference of the first payment and second payment was $35. If you times that one, but 6,323, it comes $200,000 a year difference. The question, I have 1 minute, the question is, where is this money, in which account is collected, and how we should understand that how many years was have, because in the year of the VMS, if you times 200 by 6, we're talking about $1.4 million. Just you know that I have 30 seconds. I checked with my neighbor, two of my neighbor. The difference actually wasn't 35. One of them was 51, another was $49. Let's get it the minimum 35. We're talking about $1.2 million. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Maxine McIntosh.
Good morning. On our first, what really feels like a California spring morning in
Yeah.
a long time. It's lovely out. Wanted to talk about the elections coming up. Our board president has handled so well here. One thing that isn't mentioned when you get on the board, anybody listening, anybody you want to talk to about this, it's very enjoyable. And you don't have to have a specific talent. The board hopes you do. But I have sat through the years in many committee meetings and board meetings and listened to someone speak who is like a retired contractor. And the one I respected the most was a GRF retired contractor who said, look, I've been retired for 8 years. I'm out of date. So don't count on my experience being a great contribution today. I'm in the same boat everyone else is. I thought that was wonderful, very professional of him to say that. I always enjoyed my terms on the board, always. And you know, when somebody comes up and speaks negatively, it's because they don't understand how this board functions. They don't understand how you are we and we are you. They just don't. And if we keep that in mind, then it's easy to tolerate those minor episodes or less frequent episodes. But it is so rewarding to sit on the board and so marvelous to learn how our community really runs. And the way to do it is to be a board member. I hope a lot of people will. I'm sure you all have. I always love the Globe. That's my source of most of my information. And the letters, this is an older edition. The letters to the editor last Thursday included a brilliant one by Carol Moore. Remember that name? Carol Moore has served on all the boards multiple times through the years. She's been helping with committees and clubs. She has nothing else that she really likes to do as much as help people out. And now she's in our city governance. And she's been mayor of our city. And when you see a letter written by Carol Moore, you're getting a lot of good experience and authority. Please read. I hope you will encourage your constituents to read those letters. The housing mutuals, of course, must also, it's one of the duties, practice oversight on GRF. I brought that up earlier and I realized some people here still hadn't caught on to that. I'm sure you have by now. That's why about 11 years ago, we got a new bylaw into the GRF list of laws saying that anytime they want to spend, I think it's $500,000 or more on a big project, they must come to the board members. Why? We pay the money. The boards pay the money for everything GRF does. I don't know how GRF, by the way, got some property in their own name. They shouldn't. They're like a trustor. Trustee? Trustor. And trustors aren't supposed to own part of the property they're taking care of. Something went haywire that'll have to be straightened out there someday. But their approved projects come from all the residents, everybody at home who might be listening to this program today, through representation on the board. And you are the hub and the heart of all of United Mutual, all the people living there. And it's a wonderful, exciting, interesting, and enjoyable experience to be on the board. When I was elected to the board, I didn't have any construction background or legalese or anything. What was I? A retired teacher. I'd spent most of my life teaching children to love to learn. That was the talent I brought. I knew how to teach children to love to learn. But I really enjoyed it. And it took me about a year to really learn my way. But I really did, and I think many other people out there could find that true. Come be a volunteer. Run for the board. Don't worry about whether you have a big talent in monetary situations or in some other field that the board covers. That will come. That will come to you because of the person you are inside, that you care about the mutual and you want to learn. What you need will come to you. Please consider joining this board. Thank you.
Okay, our
Thank you.
last speaker is Melissa Dominguez.
Hi, how are you? Mine seems so petty compared to what they're. I was recommended to come here from a GIF board member. I was just requesting that if I could have rain gutters just put on an L shape on my patio. As we know, we got the heavy rain, and it's cascading all into my patio and flooding it. You can't even walk in there because you'll get a nice shower of of the rain. So my budget is probably hopefully less than 200, not millions of dollars as everybody's requesting. And I hope I'm at the right location because this is what I was referred to. And I live at 751A, like in Apple Avenida, Mallorca. So am I at the right location?
Yes, you are, and
Okay.
we'll follow up with you. Staff will follow up with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. That's it? Okay. Response to the speaker, Steve?
Thank you very much, members of the board. With regards to the property tax question, so we attempted at our last finance meeting that was held on March 26th, we provided an extensive property tax explanation, walking everyone through how the property taxes are billed. There still appears to be some confusion, so I'm happy to revisit the topic if there are members of the community. I know Ms. Ascari just mentioned that she still had questions, and she did in fact mention that she had questions at our last committee. Once we get through the audit, and I know we just met the other day, but we're 99% of the way done, we will hold meetings with anybody who still has questions, and we'll address them. Just for specifically the $1 million that was referenced that was missing, there's just a misunderstanding with the difference between what you were billed versus the letter that was issued to your homes. There's a small discount that the IRS requires us to include in the letter. You were billed, I assure you, you were billed correctly. The letter has a discount of about 1.4%, and that attributes the dollar amount that she's referencing. But once again, the number that you are being assessed is correct. The number that we report on the letter is correct. All is as it should be. Just a true up of an understanding that we need to share a little further. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Leonard, a response to previous forum speakers, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I want to respond to Chris Collins last month on March 12th. She's always has a smile, and she's always in the gallery. Thank you for all the foundation information. Karen and Mike Beverly, they were asking for clarity regarding the status of a common walkway. Landscape Department assisted them with the issue with the walkway, and they appear to be happy about it. Maxine McIntosh, you always make me smile, okay? And thank you for your positivity. I look forward to seeing you every month, okay? And we're hoping to maybe work out the issue regarding printed agendas that you spoke about. So thank you for the suggestion and bringing it up. Cheryl Garcia had talked about a possible sewer line collapse, and she needed assistance with clearing that up with her neighbor. And happy to say the repairs were completed, and she's got to be happy. Okay. Elizabeth Romano, thank you for coming to the meeting. You requested some items. You requested a forensic audit, and you requested why we cannot obtain a loan. We've spoke about that many times, about the inability to be able to obtain a loan here. And you talked about the TV lounge and the lounge in the drop-in lounge. And the drop-in lounge is closed right now because we're doing remodeling in the Clubhouse 1. So when it reopens, we will revisit that. But thank you for your comments. I'm done.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay. Next is our VMS board report. Cynthia Rupert, one of our representatives, United representatives on the board, is with us on Zoom. Good morning, Cynthia. What's going on?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone this morning?
Great.
I apologize for not being there in person. I have been exposed to COVID. I feel fine, but I am being cautious and taking the precautions that we should take, even though it's fading in the back of our minds. So good morning, Honorable President and Board of Directors. I am here obviously to update the board on any changes or ideas or procedures they might want to know from VMS. Since VMS is continuously looking at internal efficiencies, costs, staff utilization, it leads the VMS board to a review of its own practices, its own policies, its own philosophy even. And there have been a few changes. VMS is really focusing on reducing redundancy in our processes, even in our staff work. One of this has led to the reduction of the reports that everyone seems to be talking about, the open reports from the different departments. But because we are working so hard to eliminate excess costs from staff and time from staff that could be redundant, we made the decision to only have meetings that might be pertinent at a certain time, because it's the same information that staff has been reporting over the months, over the years, and it is available in various other ways. It's on YouTube. These budget meetings they can come to and learn anything they want about these different departments and their processes. So instead of staff always creating these reports and these presentations, we're really trying to focus on keeping everything as efficient and effective as possible. So let's talk a little bit about VMS's philosophy, because it has changed a little bit. We are now really looking at the fact that we are a not-for-profit internal management company. We basically do the functions of any outside management company that we would be paying exorbitant prices to, but we do it in-house and there's no cost to the members. So we decided to really focus on services that any other management company would provide to their clients. What functions they would provide, what policies they would have in place. This way, we can actually be a not-for-profit management company, focus on just our needs, our clients' needs, our members' needs, and it will save the village residents a tremendous amount of money if we do this in-house versus having it outsourced and have to pay an actual management company to handle these processes. So that is a little change in the philosophy. We are trying to, again, work as a professional management company and not just as another board. Next, I would like to talk about Manny Robledo's ad hoc committee. It is still functioning, going very, I don't want to say fast, but they are really working as quickly as possible to get through the different departments and processes so that they can compare our internal functions and costs and efficiencies with external, making sure that we are staying status quo with other external companies or hopefully doing better. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is an exciting Club Expo on April 30th, starting at 10 o'clock. It's going to be in Clubhouse 5. And it is a place for the clubs to provide information to all of our residents about what they have, what they offer. And it is done every 2 years. So this is a year that we're actually going to have that. And it's a very exciting process. And I hope everyone that is interested will turn out to see it. And I was also going to welcome Kathy Bellata, but you have done that very graciously. So I will just say on behalf of VMS, welcome aboard. Any questions?
Questions for VMS, for our rep, Nancy? What was the date of the Cynthia, for April 30th?
April 30th in Clubhouse 5, starting at 10 a.m.
Clubhouse 5, 10 a.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else for Cynthia at this point? Thank you for your work, Cynthia. We really appreciate it and look forward to seeing those comparisons of other management companies, and just remind everyone that VMS has just one customer, one client, us. Us. They are not for profit also, like us, and they are working for us and only us. So thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome. Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Moving on, CEO report.
Thank you, President Bach. Honorable members, Cynthia gave me a great segue into my report, where I will be focusing on efficiencies and cost savings. As you know, United had its first budget meeting yesterday with a review of 2024 service levels for landscaping, maintenance and construction, and general services. To view the entire 2025 budget calendar, you can go to the News tab on the Village website. That's what's on the screen before you, but I know it's difficult to see. As we head into the budget preparation cycle, I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight some recent cost savings and process improvements recently implemented by VMS departments. The Office of the CEO, and I know we just discussed this because Maxine likes her paper copies, has moved to electronic meeting agenda packets for in-person board meetings. This saves about $25,000 annually. Attendees can use the QR code, which is located near the coffee area, to effortlessly access the agenda. And this eco-friendly shift eliminates the needs for hundreds of reams of paper annually, as many printed packets go unused and are promptly discarded after meetings. Also in the CEO's office, the Media and Communications Department has digitized docent tours for prospective residents of the village. This eliminates bus driver costs for an estimated savings of $14,000 to $22,000 annually and frees up more than 270 hours of staff time. This new comprehensive community tour experience, nearly a 20-minute video that takes viewers to all destinations of the previous tours and then some, is available on the Village website. On the homepage, please click on Community Tour Experience directly under our tagline, Where New Adventures Begin. In the Community Services Division, completed lease applications are now mailed or dropped off by applicants instead of staff printing electronically received documents. This saves an average of up to 3 hours in labor time each day and an estimated $10,000 to $16,000 annually due to paper savings, ink and toner savings, and so forth. Village Television has hired 2 part-time on-air talents to replace Lisa Hart when she retired. Lisa was a full-time employee, and this shift saves about $50,000 annually. There's the savings from transitioning from full to part-time employees and the benefit savings associated with that. But most importantly, these talented professionals require fewer work hours to get the same job done, and this saves at least $40,000 annually is our projection. Village Television has also incorporated AI technology to generate closed captioning for all programming broadcast on the channel, saving $40,000 to $50,000 annually. This is accomplished using the video server, which records, plays back, and generates closed captioning for all programming on the channel. Our security personnel now repair gate arms dislodged from the controller boxes and reset gate arm systems at our gates when they fail. This saves about $28,000 annually. The cost savings is significant as the vendor charges $235 just to respond, and we have more than 120 incidents per year. This also reduces the loss of use time for that function. Security Services has also restructured the security services officer presence at the community center, saving more than $41,000 annually. By redeploying 2 part-time security services personnel and assigning a field officer to stand by when assistance is needed with other services now provided by resident services. Landscaping Services is adding higher sides to dump trailers to increase capacity for debris and mulch by 150%. This results in trip reduction, saving $72,000 annually in labor costs, including $57,000 for hauling debris and $15,000 for distributing mulch throughout the community. Financial Services has identified a new washing machine vendor who provides direct shipping, which will save $11,000 in shipping costs this year and an estimated $3,000 annually thereafter. This also saves 1 week in delivery time. Information Systems, our in-house staff wrote a software program to replace the old kiosk signing in queue that we have at our concierge desk here in the lobby. for people coming to resident services and for other services. This saves between $8,000 and $15,000 annually. This software program adds an advanced reporting tool, allowing staff to break down service levels for departments that use the queuing system. This savings is from licensing fees, not having to pay for a reporting license, and staff costs. Information Systems is also building in-house microcomputers for gate entry and gate lookup at our gates that are compatible with Dwelling Live, saving $8,000 to $14,000 annually, depending on the number of kiosks that have to be replaced at the gates. Recreation manages golf operations and maintenance staffing during poor weather to include only needed personnel, saving $1,000 per rain-out day. Recreation has also updated the recreation coordinated classes paid instructors' contracts to reflect a 70-30 split between the instructor and GRF. This is an increase after many years at 80-20%. This increases GRF revenue. I would also like to touch briefly on process improvements by our departments. Resident Services has implemented a callback feature that alleviates phone traffic during peak call times and reduces hold times. Residents who call during peak hours may leave a callback number as an alternative to waiting on hold, and they receive a return call according to their place in the telephone queue. In February, more than 1,000 callbacks were made, with an average of 3 minutes and 40 seconds of wait time for that callback. As a reminder, residents are encouraged to visit Resident Services or call Resident Services during off-peak hours, which are from 1 to 4 p.m. daily, and during midweek versus Monday morning when call volume is the highest. Landscaping Services is experimenting with different brush shredders that can be maneuvered with mules to hard-to-reach areas, which reduce the overall volume of brush handled and the number of dump trips. They're also investigating the use of a brush shredder that shreds into the bags directly, reducing handling time and clipping volume. These will be used by the ticket crews, increasing the amount of tickets they can service without having to come back to the yard to dump debris. General Services has implemented a gutter cleaning schedule that will assist our gutter contractor and inspection staff to stay on schedule and complete the annual rain gutter cleaning program on time. The schedule will also inform residents when they can expect this service to be performed at their manors. Maintenance and Construction has developed a revised after-hour emergency plumbing policy to ensure customer service is at its highest level, response times are efficient, and managing contractor expenses. This promotes clear lines of communications between security services staff who take the calls and after-hours maintenance personnel. Again, this ensures resident services calls are assigned to the correct work function and minimizes the need for residents to call back for updates while awaiting service. This is very notable that our Manor Alterations Division has streamlined the procedure for processing mutual consent applications, which has reduced the processing time from 8 to 12 weeks to 2 weeks or less.
Wow.
And as a reminder, residents can help reduce costs also. One way is through the preferred delivery method. Our mandated November and April mailings cost about $7.50 per member. If 12,000 of our members were to opt out of these paper mailings, annual savings would be in excess of $90,000. In our November mailing, about 29% of our owners opted to receive these electronically for an estimated savings of $27,000. To receive documents electronically moving forward, please email info@vmsinc.org and help do your part to reduce our costs. And that concludes my update this morning. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
And I would like to quickly thank all of our staff departments who are working very diligently to reduce costs and identify efficiencies. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Tony, you're next.
Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair. CEO, I'd like to ask if we can get an update on the progress or lack thereof of Clubhouse One. Are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? It's going to be a long time, so I think maybe we should get briefings once in a while.
Sure, we can do that monthly, but as of now, we are on schedule. We're happy to report in terms of construction and so forth. And also Recreation has done a fabulous job relocating all those displaced events and people. but we'll provide an update every month moving forward. Thank you.
Nancy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. CEO Siobhan, can you tell me, are we still currently paying the trash people to do recycling for us? If you know.
Yes, they provide the service through the city has the contract with CR&R who services the village.
Well, okay, great. I have a director comment for our residents. I know that some people like to recycle and that there are people in the village who like to accept the recycling. It's fine if you give it from your neighbor who wants to save it from you, but dumpster diving is prohibited, correct?
Correct, it's against our rules.
Yeah, it's not only that, I've seen some instances where it's so unsafe and people have been injured. So I just want to reinforce that we're not trying to be heavy-handed, but if you want to recycle for your friends and give it to them, that's one thing, but dumpster diving's off the table.
Thank you, and again, that was implemented mostly for safety reasons, as you expounded on.
Yep. Anyone else? I see that Mr. Rader is eager to ask something, not at this time. Thank you. No? No. Okay.
Yeah, we don't
Not
do
a-
member comments for CEO reports.
Sorry?
We don't do member comments for
I
CEO
understand, but
reports, yeah.
okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Siobhan. Moving on now, we are at the consent calendar. And Secretary Blackwell, would you please read consent calendar, item 11?
All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event that an item is removed from the consent calendar by members of the board, such items shall be the subject of further discussion and action by the board. The consent items are: A, consistent with its statutory obligations under Civil Code 5501, a subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member reviewed the United Laguna Woods Mutual preliminary financials for the months of February 2024. Such review is hereby ratified. B, recommendation from the Landscape Committee, there are none. C, recommendation from Architectural Control and Standards Committee, there are none. D is approve the review of United subleasing and transfer of trust documents approved in March 2024, and such review is hereby ratified. E, recommendation from the Finance Committee. 1, approve of resolution for recording a lien against a member. 2, approve a resolution for recording a lien against a member. And 3, approve a resolution for recording a lien against a member. F, approve the updated 2024 annual election schedule. Those are the consent calendar. I move the consent calendar.
Second, please. Second. Pearl seconds. Favor, anyone, any objections to the consent calendar? Seeing none, approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. Unfinished business, item 12. Entertain a motion to approve revision to standard 20, patio covers, aluminum and vinyl. This has been through a 28-day notification period, and this has now been satisfied. I move this, let's see, may I have a motion to move this, to approve this
Wait.
resolution?
That's 12A.
12A, if
I
you
got it.
would read and propose it, please.
Okay. Resolution 0124XX, revised standard balcony, patio, and atrium covers. Whereas the Architectural Control and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Control and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise Standard 20, patio and balcony covers, aluminum and vinyl, Now therefore be it resolved, April 9th, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts revisions and amendments to Standard 20 balcony, patio, and atrium covers as attached to the official minutes of this meeting. And resolve further Resolution 01-1907, adopted January 18, 2019, is hereby superseded and canceled. Resolve further that the officers and of this agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move this resolution.
Is there a second? Pearl seconds. Thank you. Discussion? Okay, hearing none. Is there any objection to the approval of this resolution? Hearing none, the resolution is approved. Next resolution is a motion to enact Standard 39, balcony and patio enclosures. Ms. Mackey, you got it?
Resolution 0124XX enacts Standard 39 balcony and patio enclosures. Whereas the Architectural Control and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary. And whereas the Architectural Control and Standards Committee recognized the need to enact Standard 39 balcony and patio enclosures, now therefore be it resolved, April 9th, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts Standard 39 balcony and patio enclosures as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move this resolution.
Is there a second? Vicki seconds. Discussion? Okay. Are there any objections to the approval of this resolution? Hearing none, this resolution is approved. Thank you. Disciplinary report is next.
Yeah, staff is not here today to present. on
Okay,
this.
thank you. Looking at the report, it's pretty dull reading. We're awfully well behaved. There's not much going on. It's the usual instances of complaints about minor infractions within the village. Anthony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just like to be updated on this nuisance thing. It looks like if there's something that we should be concerned about there, I don't know, but it looks like it's a number that's rising.
Okay. Duly noted. We'll get back to you on that since that department isn't here at the moment. Thank you, Tony. Okay. Yes, go
I have a
ahead.
comment. Illegal occupancy is up quite a bit from January 20. So please, residents, if you think that someone is living in the village here that should not be, or you're not sure, there's nothing wrong with calling compliance and saying, this person has been here for a long time, or something like that, seems to be living here, and I don't know who it is and why they're here. And so let compliance handle that. They'll send somebody out just to investigate. Nobody's going to be accused of anything, and your name will be entirely silent. Your name will never be mentioned. You are assured privacy on that, as with any complaint. I did receive a letter this last month saying that people shouldn't squeal on each other, that we should actually have people wandering around the village monitoring. We should have staff monitoring all these things in the village. Well, that's even monitor. How many would we need wandering around? How would they know who was there at lunchtime and who was doing what when? So The word squeal is not used by a person who's trying to do a good thing. They're reporting for the welfare and health of their neighbors.
Okay, Maggie, thank you. We'll
Thank you.
have the report next month. Thank you. We'll move on now.
Madam President, we do
Yes.
have a member comment on this
Yes,
item.
okay.
Mrs.
Member
Rader?
comment?
Good morning, Dick Rader, 270D. I think I'm correct in this, and if not, I think it should be investigated anyway. The report that you have on compliance issues, I believe what happens is if a compliance issue is not completed in a prior month, it then gets rolled over into this month. And that means, therefore, that if that's true, you have no way of tracking whether compliance issues are increasing or decreasing, if you see what I'm saying. And therefore, I think that it would be important to determine if that is happening, this rollover, and if it's distorting the, the idea of whether we have that many compliance issues.
Thank you. Okay, on to new business. Town halls. This Friday, we will have our United Town Hall, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center, and the subject this month is going to be the roofing program. We'll have a speaker, Mr. Joe Scott from Lettner Roofing, the company that's been providing that service, that professional construction service to the village for many, many years. He'll be there for the first hour, and then the second hour will be the usual question, answer, and free-for-all that we like at town halls. So next, we will go on to entertaining a motion to approve revision of Standard 22, patio slabs, walkways, and pavers. This is part of this ongoing revision of the standards that architectural control has undertaken. So, Maggie, will you read Standard 22?
Revised Standard 22 patio slabs, walkway, and pavers. Whereas the Architectural Control and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Control and Standards Committee recognized the need to update and clarify the construction methods and materials of patio slabs, walkways, and pavers. Now therefore be it resolved, May 14, 2024, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts revision and amendments to Standard 22 patio slabs as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further Resolution 01-1920, adopted February 12th of 2019, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. If the board endorses the revisions, staff recommends that a motion be made and seconded to accept the resolution and to allow discussion and ensure that the resolution reads to the satisfaction of the board. And then we would put it over, the resolution over to the next available board meeting, no less than 28 days. I move this resolution.
Is there a second? Sue, thank you. Okay, discussion of this. Is there a staff report on this today? I see Ellen.
Good morning.
Morning, Ellen.
Alan Grimshaw, manager, Manor Alterations. A quick overview of this, we did add walkways to that. A lot of our mutual consents for patios involved walkways, so we decided we would deal with that. We've also had a lot of requests, not only for patios, but for pavers in that patio. So we've given some guidance and guidelines for how you would install pavers. The third item in an overview is that we've also established some standards by which you can make your patio. We've included a section in that to make it easier for the members to understand. That's basically a simplified overview. I'm certainly here to answer questions.
Sue?
Ellen, I wasn't at the last meeting, and so I didn't hear the discussion on this. So in the discussion section here, it says, any landscaping alterations should be performed only by the managing agent's landscape crews, with the cost of any revisions to be the responsibility of the manager.
Paige?
Who is the managing agent? Is that the residence contractor, or is that VMS staff?
And that's VMS staff, our
That's
landscape
VMS staff.
division.
Thank you.
Tony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to point out that there's a lot of detail in this alterations thing. People should pay attention to. It gives a depth of aggregate. And also, I'd like to ask a question, when we're putting rebar in there, does it also, it doesn't see in there where you have the double loop wire with the twists so that the rebar doesn't separate when you're pouring the concrete? Is that going to be in there or no, or is it not necessary? And there's a lot of, they use from terminology, WWF, when they're referring to rebar. So, but I know when you put rebar in there, we used to use these twists so that the rebar doesn't separate when you're pouring the concrete in there.
That is included in there, but it's assumed.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Nancy?
Right, I see one of the clauses in here is about corrugated and plexiglass used. What about, if it's pre-existing, is that grandfathered in, and it's just for, this is for new construction?
I think that's in atriums.
Right, that's not in, that's not in.
This is paving
This is paving.
slabs.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and actually, last time we talked about this, you can check the minutes and minute
Oh,
notes.
good, yeah. I didn't know where corrugated.
Ellen,
wasn't.
how would you define walkways as opposed to sidewalks? Walkways.
Walkways directly approaching a patio
Okay.
cover.
So from sidewalk to your front gate?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, question? All right, further, at that point, we will call the vote on this resolution. And please vote on your screens. I think it took.
For the record, I didn't vote for him.
I can't get my, oh, good, it went up, okay.
And Director Blackwell?
Okay.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. This is now on 28-day review for final approval next, for my final consideration next month. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have item C, entertain a motion to approve supplemental appropriation for turf reduction projects.
Resolution 0124XX supplemental appropriation for turf reduction. Whereas, as a result of extended rain events and staff vacancies, the budgeted reserve funds for landscape services for fiscal year 2023 were not expended, with a balance of $83,385. And whereas the United Landscape Committee directed staff to develop turf removal locations and strategies, now therefore be it resolved, April 9, 2024, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves a supplemental appropriation to continue turf reduction work in fiscal year 2024, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move this resolution.
Is there a second? Yes, Sue seconds, thank you. Okay. Staff report and discussion.
I'd like to ask something.
Yeah, sorry.
Kurt, while you're here, I really appreciated receiving the background information in this. And under the discussion item, it talks about AB 1572. And this is where there is a law that says we have to stop using potable water for turf, for non-functional turf. And so this is very important, is it not, to start getting funds into this area, this 83,000 to assist with meeting this goal?
Yes, absolutely. As the report goes on to say, AB 1572, which requires all turf that's watered by potable water to be removed, all non-functional turf that is. But that bill was passed after the 2024 budget was passed. So United didn't have the opportunity to put any funds in the 2024 budget for it. So we had a cumulative total of $83,385 left over from reserve funds last year. So this will kind of give you a kickstart. You guys need to put as much money as you can towards this effort, and we'll be talking about planning and strategies in the Landscape Committee at the end of this month. But in the meantime, we need to get going as quickly as we can with whatever we have. You did budget a little more than $200,000 this year for turf reduction, so this will be added to that to just increase the amount of square foot we can remove.
Thank you.
Nikki?
Yeah, since it was budgeted for 2024 and it has not been used, the Finance Committee decided to approve it, endorse it, so we had action taken.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? Concerns? Issues? Okay. We're ready to vote this resolution. Please vote on your screens.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you, motion passes. Okay, next item is the item 13D, motion to approve a temporary borrowing.
Resolution 0124XX, temporary borrowing. Whereas pursuant to Civil Code Section 5515, the Board of Directors may authorize a temporary transfer of monies from a reserve fund to an association's general operating fund to meet short-term cash flow requirements and other expenses. If the Board of Directors has provided notice of the intent to consider the transfer in a board meeting notice provided pursuant to 4920. And whereas the notice required pursuant to 4920 has been provided in the agenda for this Board of Directors meetings, and whereas it has become necessary to temporarily transfer monies from the reserve fund to the operating fund due to timing differences in when property tax and property insurance assessments are collected and the corresponding amounts are required to be paid. And whereas the amount of the funds needed to be transferred from the operating reserve fund to the reserve operating fund has been determined to be $6,500,000, and the repayment of such funds from the operating fund to the reserve fund is anticipated to be more than provided by future property tax assessment collections and positive cash flow results from operations. And whereas it is planned and anticipated that sufficient cash flow will be generated in the reserve operating fund to repay the $66,500,000 to the reserve fund within 12 months, therefore a special assessment will not be needed. Now therefore be it resolved, April 9th, 2024, that the transfer of $6,500,000 as a temporary transfer from the reserve fund to the operating fund for the reasons stated herein, and with the plan to repay the funds within 12 months, is hereby authorized, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move this resolution.
Is there a second?
I do second. And
Okay.
can I just have a clarification before staff
Yes.
talk about it? Actually, committee already approved this motion. So according to the Robert Rule of Order, it is to be also okay to be included in the consent agenda. However, Finance Committee Chair is and the committee as a whole, I realize this is serious matter and it's a large amount of money transfer from one account to another. So when I was asked if it is included, when the agenda preparation time, if it is included in the consent agenda, I said, I think I better put it on the new business so that we could clearly understand, because finance should be very clear and transparent, not only for the committee members, but also for the board has to understand clearly. So that's why I put it on, and I just wanted to make it clear. So we are welcome to have a discussion and have a complete, board's approval for that.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? Anyone? Staff report?
Good morning once again, and thank you. If I may start, I'm going to go ahead and read the recommendation as written, just for the benefit of the board as well as the audience. The recommendation is staff recommends the Finance Committee endorse and the board approve it. Forgive me, this is specifically for the board. Approve the temporary borrowing of $6.5 million from the operating fund, by the operating fund from the reserve fund, specifically with $4 million coming from cash in the reserve fund and $2.5 million moving from investments held by JP Morgan. This temporary borrowing is required to meet cash flow needs resulting from the property tax payment scheduled for April 2024 and the residual effects of the prepayment of 12 months of property insurance in October 2023. Payback of the borrowed monies to the advancing fund is planned for September 2024, but is not to exceed 1 year from the date of approval. I will remind everybody that obviously there's a lot of factors that go into the business, and while I mentioned property taxes as well as property insurance here, there's other factors that go into running this business as well. And I did not dive into those details because these are the biggest components that make up that balance. This is a normal practice that we come to every April, given the fact that, once again, it's a timing difference for the most part when it comes to property taxes. At this point, you've collected 4 months worth of assessments, about $1.2 million apiece, but you're required to pay $7.2 million specific to the property taxes. That makes up $2.4 million of the overall $6.5. In the staff report, I provided some governing authority. Just as always, I include this to show you that you are allowed, it's perfectly acceptable to borrow from your reserve accounts. So I mentioned the property tax. The other element, again, the biggest component has to do with your property insurance. Your property insurance, you spend about $5.2 million. All that money had to be paid upfront. So that's money that, as of right now, you would have had in your cash account, at least a component of it, but because you had to pay it out of pocket back in October, that is not money that you have to spend on other areas, such as your property taxes. When you combine the two, the property taxes as well as the property insurance, you're left with about $5 million shortfall as of the middle of early April, as we stand right now. In addition, you also have another, say, $1 million worth of expenditures that you need to pay to just generally run your business on a monthly basis. Utilities, outside services, and the like. So again, a bunch of other factors contribute to needing this. And While there is a plan that we'll be discussing when we're moving forward into the budget season in terms of overcoming this problem, there are, at this moment, factors that require you to borrow from your reserve. I will comment, a question that we received from, I believe, some of the board members was, are there going to be penalties relating to pulling money from your investment accounts? So the short answer is no. There are no penalties from having those treasuries mature early. So the monies would be sold at the market at that date. So again, no penalties being applied. The goal will be to pay this back as soon as possible. All that money will be returned to the reserve account. I assure you every single time that we have done this, and again, this is an annual occurring event, that money was paid back based upon what we've included in our staff reports. I will also comment that the borrowing that was taking place back in October that you needed in order to fund that $5.2 million of property insurance, again, that wasn't money that you had sitting in your operating account just idle. You had to borrow $3 million of that money from the reserve account. That dollar amount was in fact paid back on March 29th. And now you're in a situation where, again, your cash balances are low. There was included a cash flow forecast in the staff report back at the Finance Committee, as well as what was included in the preparation for this board meeting. We monitor your cash on a regular basis, and as of last Friday, we are about $50,000 more cash in your account than what I had anticipated, but still $50,000 doesn't go a long way. I mean, we're still in a position where I'm still holding to the recommendation of the 6.5 because when I make my check runs later on in the month to pay for your ongoing expenses, I may, in the future weeks, have underestimated and have to go back. So once again, we're here to request the $6.5 million to transfer over immediately. That way we can issue payment to pay for your property taxes. The only other comment I will say is we've always paid your property taxes on time. California does apply a 10% penalty for late payments. So by no means would we ever not pay your taxes because obviously we have no interest in paying about $700,000 in penalties. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Ellen?
Steve, how much do we have in the reserve right now?
So in your reserve account, you're still holding on to, forgive me, just to be specific, when you say in the reserve, are you talking about the reserve?
Everything.
So everything about $15 million.
Okay. So if we take 6.5 million, then we have what, 8 million?
Correct.
Yeah, 8 million. Okay, and how much do we have to pay the outside services? I think you told me that we need to pay outside, we have outstanding bills or something?
Sure. On a weekly basis, we pay about $300,000. So, and that's a combination of utilities, outside services, various other consulting, your standard expenses.
All right.
So to the tune $300,000 per week. Forgive me, that's out of the operating fund. So out of the reserve fund, is that what your question?
Well, no, I'm just talking in general, so that would be out of the operating, right? Or-
Gotcha.
I know the reserve, yeah. Let's
About
talk about
$120,000 per week out of the reserve fund.
120,000 per week out of the reserve. Thank you. I support borrowing from the reserves, but we have to reevaluate how we spend our money currently. I don't think that we have enough money coming into our, for assessments. The operation expenses are huge. When you review that our insurance went up from 3.5 in '23 to 5.2. I mean, we need to play catch up, and expenses and 6.5 million. I'm hesitant on the 6.5. I think that maybe another analysis of it, maybe, I don't know, borrowing 4 million might be the amount that would pay, because we have 1.2 million coming into every month for taxes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and we don't have that, right? We don't have
So
it.
no, you've collected the same amount on a monthly basis. So based upon the cash flow that was provided to you, I kind of walked you, I did the best I could in terms of being completely transparent.
Right.
And showing where all the money is coming in. You will absolutely receive $1.2 million in May and June, but at this moment, we don't have that cash in our pockets. So Anything less than 6.5 is, in essence, I will be unable to pay certain bills. So no matter what, we will do everything we can because we must pay the property taxes clearly.
Right.
But to your point with regards to not collecting money, just to provide some assurance to the board as well as the membership as well, you do collect sufficient funds in order to pay all your bills over the course of the year. It's the timing element. So on October 1st, when we paid the $5.2 million of property insurance, that was to cover the period of October 1st through September 30th. You had not collected really any of those funds by October 1st. I mean, you received those funds maybe a couple days later. But again, all that money was paid out of pocket before you received it. So we will discuss further in the budget season in terms of options, in terms of to overcome this process. So we don't need to borrow extensive funds from the reserve going forward. But ultimately, we'll make recommendations and we'll come to a decision based upon and follow the board's decisions.
The problem is we have a front-loaded year.
Yeah. Yes.
We have a front-loaded year where the heavy expenses have to be paid in either in advance with the insurance premium, which will change perhaps as time goes on. And there's a program afoot to look at changing the insurance premium payment process without penalty. And we have the property taxes. So with this front-loaded year, we end up okay, but our year does not stagger out nicely into 12 equal pieces. Other question, Mickey?
Not a question, just comment. As a finance committee, chair, and with the members, and we are working and hard and look into every detail very seriously. This is not a light matter. And even though I'm a new treasurer and I have many experiences working with a large organization, and this kind of detailed expertise information has come from the staff because they work every day for life. And as a board, we are fiduciary. We need to really study into it and make sure that the decision or recommendation of the staff is valid and best for the life of our resident, our corporation. So we do not take lightly. And again, our board members, Tom, and our president, they have much excellent experience in that area. But the only thing that we come into the board very clearly is because everybody has to know. The board has to understand clearly. It seemed like that it was not real clear in the past. Anyway, so I just look at the record and borrowing from one account into the other, and every time it just returned in time. We didn't have any problem. So $4 million, $6.5 million, it doesn't make much difference at this time. But we need to pay the bill. Otherwise, tomorrow, April 10th, we have to pay 10% late fee, which is a quite large amount. And we need to cut down as much as possible, not to spend any unnecessary money. So I think this is the best decision for now, that we need to move on and vote for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Nancy?
Yes, I just want to say it in simple terms for the membership at large. I get this question often. We cannot just flight our insurance premiums much like we can personally. So we have a perfect storm here where, one, the property taxes are due, and second, we have a premium that has gone up fourfold than it was years ago that we have to pay in lump sum coincidentally at the same time. And not that it's a point of discussion here, Ellen's point, and I think the consensus is, we have these operating expenses, so we do, as a board, will be looking at that, and the residents, it's a sobering situation. But I support this motion also for the reasons that we've just stated, which Steve described, as frankly necessary, so that we're not incurring a substantial penalty.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. At this moment, we'd like to call the vote then.
Well, we do have multiple member comments.
I'm sorry?
We have multiple member comments.
Oh, okay, thank you. First?
First one is Azar Asghari.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Madam President, Mrs. Bach, and all board member. I am here to give a kind of the analysis about what is writing there. It's passing, and you can see very simple. The recommendation write down very clearly that we have $4 million cash in the reserve account, and they are asking to selling our investment for $2.5 million. If you look at on those papers that you received, I write down from the beginning. VMS board borrowed $3 million in October 2023 from reserve account and paid back in March 2024. The payback is in cash in the reserve account, and part of that $4 million. So considering that is already borrowed and paid back, so we don't need it to bring that one to the calculation. Now let's look at the amount that needs to be borrowed today on April 9. Please understand, I am talking about not all of the payment and all of the finance. I am going by the recommendation, 2 items that was there, and I calculate only those 2. Let's first talk about property tax. Property tax collecting $1.2 million every month, and we need 6 of them to pay by tomorrow, which is 7.2. However, is collected from January to April only 4.8. That means we need 2.4 million to borrow to pay property tax on time without penalty. No doubt about that. Nobody argued that one. Let's talk about property insurance. Property, 2 items that mentioned in the recommendation. I'm not talking about other. Property insurance is collected every month, $440,000 from residents for 12 months. So the total is $5.2 million, as mentioned in the above. From October 2023 to April 2024 is 7 months. If you times that one by 440, is $3 million already collected. So out of that 5.2 million, look at that paper, 3 million is already collected. So we needed only 2.2 million. I need to finish this one. Maxi talked about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I collected, so let's go. So we have it, 5 minus 3 is 2.2 million. If you add these 2 is necessary today to get collected to pay back. So if you add, it's going to be the total is 4.6 million. However, with the contingency that we have $1.2 million in that, well, I heard that they said that I use that one for the deficit, but considering that one, today borrowing comes to 3.4 million only, not 6.5 million. So my request and demand is, or from residents, please do not sell the investment. The first maturity comes in May. Do not sell the investment, 2.5 million of that, and get at least the 4 million cash, borrowing 4 million cash that is in the reserve right now, pay back this, and is totally cover both of them, the 4 million, and then later in May come. If in June, by chance, insurance might change or anything, again, this beautiful board that is sitting here, they can come here in May, and then they can come in June and ask again why we should sell it right now for one thing that is going to pay in June. So that's my presentation about that, and hopefully one of the director here just make amendment and then goes for the cash that is available, $4 million in the reserve account, and go for that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Okay.
Next speaker is Mr. Irvin Stern.
My name is Irvin Stern, 726B Avenida Majorca. I just want to just recommend what Zar had said. I think that more or less says it all. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is John Beckett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
An interesting staff report. It quotes sections A, B, C, and D of Corporations Code 5515, but leaves out paragraph E, which says, "The board shall exercise prudent fiscal management in maintaining the integrity of the reserve account." The word integrity comes from the Latin integritas, which means wholeness, soundness. According to this repayment schedule, our reserve fund is going to be repaid the $3 million that was borrowed from it earlier to pay the last property tax. And that $3 million is going to be in our account for approximately 12 days. In other words, the reserve account is going to be, we're going to keep the balance in the reserve account intact for a few days a year. I don't think that's what the statute requires. I think there's far more to that. And it says, this is the most important part, the board shall, if necessary, levy a special assessment to recover the full amount of the expended funds within the 1 year. We are putting our members at risk of a $6.5 million special assessment. If you divide that by the 6,323 members, that's more than $1,000 a person. Can you imagine what's going to happen when your poorest members get a bill for $1,000 they got to come up with? Half the units in United are going to go up for sale. I know you're in a position right now where you really don't have much choice, but I hope that when the budget is considered and we'll put in there that $6.5 million as an expense that must be taken care of. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
I have 2 emails I'm going to read.
Please.
Okay, give me 1 second. First one is from Rowena Miller. I cannot attend today's meeting. I am concerned about the $6 million I heard the board plans to borrow from the reserve fund by selling investments. Not a good time to sell and incur penalties. Rather borrow the amount and use money, return the contingency fund to pay for early tax bills. Reserve must stay, tax money is coming. And the next speaker is going to be Monica Levac. My name is Monica Levac. I have owned this co-op since November of 2001, and while I haven't lived here the entire time, this community and how it operates is of great concern to me. A little bit of my background. I have worked with the Internal Revenue Services as a tax collector, a clerk for the Torrance Police Department, a 911 dispatcher for the CHP, and a program manager for a local Irvine firm. I have served on many boards associated with my children, from PTA in grade school to the board positions while they were in high school. I have been on my homeowners board prior to moving to Laguna Woods, serving as the board president. During my tenure on the HOA, I pushed and worked with the city of Lake Forest to incorporate permit parking only along our community streets, and with the county of Orange for the removal of 15 eucalyptus trees, which were diseased and threatening destruction of nearby homes. I know the cost of landscaping with the community as well as the day-to-day operations of an HOA. I have recently reviewed online the spending of the Finance Committee, and I am quite concerned about the inability to seriously accept the fiduciary responsibility. I have reviewed the fact that $3 million has already been borrowed to cover the cost of our insurance. I understand now they want to borrow another $6.5 million at a great cost to the association. by removing money from the CD before maturity of the utter craziness, as there will be penalty associated with the withdrawal. If a withdrawal is needed and the next date is May, wait until then. If the association collects $2.4 million in a 2-month period and $3 million borrowed earlier was paid back in March, I fail to see why we should be spending money now. I see the insurance isn't due until October of 2024, so there's no reason to borrow money for that item now. If the board elects to move the insurance date up to June 2024, the $2.4 million collected for April and May will cover that cost. I cannot see why this board is discussing insurance now, as the property taxes are due tomorrow. I would like, in writing, an explanation about property taxes. If, for example, my property taxes are $2,000 per year, then I should be paying $1,000 in April and another $1,000 in December. What I can't figure out is why United tacks on an additional fee, let's say $25, yet does not tell me where that money is going. There is some explanation about IRS and percentage to the county, which makes no sense at all. I feel strongly that this board is charging a fee and is taking advantage of its elderly community, thinking no one is watching. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we are ready to call, I'm sorry, Tom, one more?
Yeah, a number of comments, really.
Please.
First of all, I don't disagree with a lot that was said here today, that it's a big issue. It's a big issue to borrow $6.5 million from the reserve fund, and I don't think anybody likes that, and it does create a big issue. Just to remind people, in 2018, we paid $613,000 a year for our property insurance. In 2023, we paid $4.7 million for less insurance, which is basically 767% of what it was. Where the operating fund might have been able to cover it in 2018 with a small amount, it can't cover the $4.7 million just on our regular monthly amounts. When we start looking at our property insurance growing every year, it's a big concern, just like John Beckett was talking about, and we have to do something about it. In theory, we shouldn't touch those property tax funds and use it to help pay property insurance. But our choices in reality are that if we don't pay the property insurance up front, we're going to cost ourselves another $100,000 to $200,000 a year in the interest if we paid it on a monthly basis. That would prevent us from borrowing the money from the reserve fund, but the only thing it does is cost the members of our community $100,000 to $200,000 more. So by paying it up front, it's like we're investing at 8 to 10% investment for us. If we collect the money up front, a special assessment, or add to it during the, or raise our assessment, we're talking about another $800 per man or per year to cover that. So the residents don't gain anything by that. They lose $800 out of their pocket. Borrowing from the reserve fund doesn't cost our residents anything. It actually saves us money by being able to pay our insurance up front. So in theory, it'd be nice to be able to not touch that property tax money to help pay for the property insurance. But in reality, we do our members the best financial benefit by borrowing that money to pay for the property insurance. I also agree with Azar about not trying to sell the any kind of investments early if possible. And I think Steve and the finance department would agree they're not going to sell something early unless they have to. I'll let Steve tell us if he agrees to that or not. But we do have to look at how to handle this ongoing borrowing situation, because the finance department of EMS is going to be here every year asking for the same thing, and it's going to go up and up and up until we do something about it. But at this point in time, the only thing we can do is borrow the funds to pay for the property taxes tomorrow and to continue paying our obligations to our vendors. And therefore, although I don't like this, based on the February actuals, we had 67 cents in cash for every dollar that we owed a vendor. I think Steve could give us an update at year end that it was even worse than that. And we also have a deficit going on that's going to require cash also, which I think you showed in your cash flow analysis. But I will ask Steve if he wants to make any comments to what I just said and go from there. So I will support the motion.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you. I think you covered it quite well, and you're in agreement. None of us want to borrow money. If money was unlimited, of course, we'd keep everything independent of one another. And you're doing the right thing by borrowing from the reserve as opposed to paying an outside agency such as a bank to get a loan to do this. Everything makes sense. It's the same thing we've been doing repeatedly year after year because, again, we've been in this situation year after year. This is an annual occurrence. Tom, I 100% agree with you that this will continue to get bigger and bigger as insurance has the potential of increasing annually. Something that was mentioned by Mr. Beckett as well has to do with a special assessment. So we specifically said in the staff report as well as in the resolution that we are not foreseeing a special assessment being required. This is 100% a timing issue. Again, we've repeated ourselves over and over again that the money will be collected. So the property taxes is the easiest component to discuss because you've collected 4 months, you're paying 6. In the next 2 months, you will collect those remaining components and we will be able to return money back over time. So I would anticipate over the next couple of months, specifically to property taxes. With regards to property insurance, again, you paid all that money back in October for a 12-month term. We're only about 7 months in. We'll continue to repay that money back to the reserve account prior to September timeframe. Again, Civil Code specifically says that you must plan for potentially a special assessment if you were unable to repay that amount within a 12-month term. That's not the case, right? So clearly we're not anticipating a special assessment. I think that covered most of it. Mrs. Gari mentioned that there is a lesser dollar amount that she pointed out. I would agree that I did highlight property taxes and property insurance because those are the biggest overwhelming components. But clearly there's more factors to this business than those two components. I didn't list those in detail because we provide that information on a monthly basis in your financial statements. I'm happy to go through those details at a later time. Once again, looking at the cash flow analysis that was prepared a few weeks ago, we're tracking within $50,000 of that. The money is necessary. But again, Tom, thank you for making those comments, and I agree with everything you've said.
One quick question, Steve. As far as selling a U.S. Treasury note, will you have to immediately, or can you wait and see if you need it?
So no, we will need to sell those funds immediately in order to pay for both the property taxes as well as ongoing expenses. So there, again, you're running pretty close in terms of the dollar amounts that you have in your cash account at the moment. And yes, once you see the audited financial statements, if you haven't seen them already, the dollar amounts was about $1,000 in the account at year end.
And can you tell us how much cash we had at year end and how much our obligations were?
Correct. So again, not to cast fear, but there is a concern over cash, right? We have several recommendations that we're planning on bringing forward when we're discussing budgets. But looking back, we were in a dire situation where at year end, the audited statements will show that you had $1,600 in cash. So granted, some of that is restricted, but the operating available cash was about $1,600 and you had about $6 million in liabilities. So it was a challenging situation that is not, it's overcomable with proper planning. Thank you.
Other questions? Did I see any other hands from board directors? Okay, at this time, we'll call the vote on this motion. Please vote on your screens.
And the motion passes.
Motion passes, and we have a clear direction as we go through our budgeting process for 2025 to address this problem and find the solution to it. Thank you all. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you, audience and members, for your comments. Thank you. And moving on, at this point, director comments in general, item 14. We'll do a quick round the horseshoe, and then perhaps we'll take a 5-minute break and come back for committee reports, unless you want to forge on. Comments at this point? Anyone? Okay, shall we take 5? Okay, 5-minute break, and we'll be back. Thank you. Okay, let's resume our meeting, please. And our first committee report is Finance Committee, very appropriate.
Okay, ready?
Sort of.
All right, while everybody is gathering, I'd like to just give an update for the audit committee. We had the audit finished last week, so we had all different boards gathering together. We approved our United Mutual's audit, which was quite interesting. That was my first time to sit on the task force, and we met about 4 times during from February to April, which was a lot of work, but it was quite professional, and we had a summary of the sheet that we had, what kind of criteria the KMPG worked through, and which was very convincing. And so one thing is done, in the budget procedure is now being started. So yesterday, was it yesterday? On Monday, yeah, we had the budget information meeting, which was very informative, and we didn't have many members attended, but we all agreed that information was by the staff. Head of the staff give them whole arena of their work, so that we, as a board, we need to engage to have a wise budget procedure for 2015 in a way that we are suffering from the previous budget, so that we had to go through this borrowing thing, $6.5 million. So we, as a board, not only just Finance Committee, but also every board members could really attentively engaged in the process, and then work for the next year's budget. Okay, Treasurer's report. Let's go to slide 1. Through the reporting period of February 29, 2024, total revenue for United was $9,152,000, compared to the expense of $7,957,000, resulting in net revenue of $1,195,000. In finance, we keep a close eye on the operating portion of our financial results. The operating fund without depreciation shows an operating surplus of $16,000 through the reporting period. This chart shows how much of our revenue went into operations, with $4,195,000 coming in from assessments and $231,000 coming from non-assessment revenue. This is compared to operating expenditure of $4,410,000 without depreciation. In slide 3, this next chart takes the full income statement and compares those results to budget. We can see that United ended the period better than budget by $8,064,000 when combining all funds. Next slide. The most significant variance from budget were attributed to the following. 1, outside services, $452,000. It is favorable, and this variance resulted primarily in the maintenance and construction and landscaping departments due to timing. It's still beginning of the year. Impacted programs include roof replacements, tree maintenance, electrical system replacements, abatement for flooring replacement, and copper pipe remediation. Roof replacement work is expected to begin mid-year, so we have not spent much money yet. and work is in progress for the other programs. And then second favorable variance is employee compensation, $283,000. It resulted primarily in the landscape and maintenance and construction departments due to open positions. Impacted areas include ground maintenance, irrigation, electrical interior components, paint, and plumbing. Recruitment is in progress to fill in current open positions, and grounds maintenance contracted shrub bed maintenance to outside vendors for the pruning, weeding cycle as they continue to fill open positions. And then materials and supplies, $190,000. Favorable variance primarily in the M&C department due to timing of materials purchases. Impacted areas include interior components, paint, and electrical. And utilities and telephone, $57,000 are unfavorable variance, primarily in sewer and electricity due to higher rates than anticipated at the time of budget preparation. Additionally, some of the 2023 sewer expenses were paid in 2024. And fees and charges to residents, $223,000. Unfavorable variance primarily due to the majority of damage restoration backlog cases being completed in 2023. Only 16 cases, or 5%, of backlog cases are planned for processing in 2024. Additionally, the anticipated revenue in Unite's 2024 budget was based on a sample of open damage restoration cases that represented an average cost of $4,000 per incident. The actual cost per incident was much lower than that. To a lesser extent, current year resident maintenance fees ended the period better than budget due to the timing of billing requests. Next slide, number 5. On this pie chart, we show non-assessment revenue earned to date of $343,000. And revenue is organized by the category, starting with our largest revenue generating category, investment income, followed by fees and charges, and laundry, lease processing fee, resale processing fee, and so forth. Next slide shows the expenses to date of $7,957,000 approximately, showing that our largest categories of expenses are for employee compensation and property tax, followed by insurance, utility, outside services, and so forth. Slide 7. On the next chart, we see those same expenses excluding property tax. So again, employee compensation is the largest one, and then you can see all other categories. Slide 8. Our fund balances are shown here. The contingency fund balance on February 29, 2024 was $1,215,000, and contributions collected totaled $25,000 with no expenditures to date. The reserve fund balance on February 29, 2024 was $16,374,000, and contributions and investment revenue collected totaled $2,277,000, while expenditures was $1,170,000. And next slide, we compare this to historical fund balance for the past 5 years on this chart, which have averaged $18.7 million. In the following slides, 10, we have a slide here to show resale history from 2024 to 2024. Through February 29, 2024, United resales totaled 53, which is 14 resales higher than the prior year for the same time period. And the average year-to-date resale price for United Mutual Manor was $361,000, which is about $21,000 more than the prior year for the same period, which was not bad at all. All right, if you continue to Finance Committee report and resale leasing report, I think we have a graph much more in detail. Let's look at it. Yes, agenda item 15A, 3, monthly resale report. We already mentioned the summary of it, but you could see all the detailed numbers compared to last year and this year. And the other side of the page, we have monthly active leasing report, right? So, so far, our leasing rate is 13.2 in March. From January, about same, but very slowly increasing from 13.1 to 13.2, which is pretty good. Okay, I think that will cover my report, basically it. And is there any question? Yes, Alan?
I didn't see anything in the pie chart regarding expenses related to compensation. Typically, there is a section for expenses.
No, compensation, we usually do not show.
Expenses
I think
related
it's
to
just basically the
compensation.
same, yeah, compared to the previous year.
It's the same as
Yeah,
what?
mhm.
It's loaded
Only,
into it.
yeah, only difference is without property tax. So that's the same thing. If you need, more information, probably we can talk to the department.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, the next question is, why aren't we having the balances from the end of March? Why the end of February?
Okay, because of the timing, I checked with it, and March finance will come out about next week. So it takes time for all the department collect the data and put it in the system. So it's not available yet. So usually when we have a treasurer's report, it's the month before. So next month, March, a report will come out. Thank you. Yes.
Tony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe it's my age and my short-term memory, but on slide 4, could I have another understanding of what the fees and charges to residents, that red number, what's the significance of that number, please?
Yeah.
It's a $223,000.
Right. Fees and charges to the resident, because at the beginning of the year, we do not have enough fees and charges being collected, like when they move in, they have inspection fees and those fees. So we budgeted throughout the whole year, but at the beginning of the year, we don't have much transaction, I don't think.
Okay.
It's the normal fees and laundry fees, fees for alterations, the work fees that are charged for chargeable expenses, for work being done by M&C, for example, in a unit or general services. So anytime a resident would write a check for something that VMS did that was not part of, the normal paid for or prepaid expenses, that comes under fees and charges.
So this is not money that's outstanding?
No, that's income.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Income,
not collected.
money in.
Right.
Tom?
Is this where the damage restoration funds would be?
Restoration?
Damage restoration?
Damage restoration, they estimated wrong last year. They budgeted, but most of the restoration work has been done in 2023. So not many incoming cases will be appear us. So that is one of the main reasons that we have about $1 million operating budget in red this year.
And it would be under this category?
Yes, I think so.
And that was
Yes.
the main reason for
Yeah.
the big deficit then?
Exactly.
A major contributor
Yes,
to that, absolutely.
So 2025, we are making up that $1 million up, another problem for us.
Yes.
But that's the reality.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else for, okay. Tony, Architectural Controls and Standards Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had our meeting, and we're having a next meeting on Thursday, and Alan Grinshaw and his people are going through the 44 architectural control standards, and one at a time, and the next one is 22, and we already covered some of what we did in the consent calendar today. And our next meeting is the 18th, here in the boardroom.
Okay, Governing Docs, Maggie? Anything new?
Okay, we did not meet last month, but we will be meeting this month. And we will continue to update the community charter. We may do some work on some election questions and things like that. And we are still reviewing the operating rules. And we had one more task, which we added, which I have just forgotten.
Paul, were you
Sorry,
sitting
did we
on?
miss the Members' Hearings Committee by chance?
I'm sorry, which?
The Members' Hearings Committee? I think that was 15C.
Oh,
or-
did I, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped over that, I'm sorry. Nancy, do you want to report on member hearings? Thank you.
Yes, we have hearings routinely, usually at least twice a month, and they're focused on damage restoration, so there's no further comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. Sue, of course, is not feeling well and left our meeting, but obviously Landscape Committee, last meeting was in February. She reported on that in March, and the next is upcoming. Pearl, Maintenance and Construction? I
Yes,
think same story.
Last committee meeting was on February 28th. The next meeting will be on April 24th at 1:30 at the boardroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resident Advisory, Tony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next meeting will be this Thursday afternoon. It's in the Elm Room at 4 o'clock. And of course, since it's proprietary information, we don't discuss personal information here, but we did have the meeting and it went well. Thank you.
Okay. The GRF committee highlights now. GRF Finance Committee, Mickey?
We have not met last month, and next meeting will be April 17th at 1:30. But again, the task force group was GRF committee. So even though Finance Committee have not met, that a lot of activity had been going on. And as a part of that force, they audited 3 different entities, like United Mutual and Third Mutual and GRF. So that's the report.
Okay. Landscape Committee, let's see, also, I'm sorry, I missed one. CAC, that was a
Okay.
lively one,
All right.
wasn't it?
I'll start out, yes, it was interesting, but I'll start out with the committees are the building blocks for the governance here. And it's very important that everybody try and get to at least a couple committees, whatever your interest is. And the Community Activities Committee, which is the GRF committee is very important because they pretty much run the clubs, the recreation, and the amenities of the village. And our meeting was on March 14th. It was a very interesting meeting, so you don't want to miss April 11th at 1:30. Thank you.
Okay. And now GRF Landscape Committee, again, Sue previously reported on that. GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee, I previously reported the February results last month. We've got one coming up this week on Wednesday, or tomorrow. Yeah, it is tomorrow. The Clubhouse Facilities Ad Hoc Committee has essentially been subsumed into the regular committee of M&C, so that I think is no longer going to be in existence. Space planning, Nancy?
We actually have a meeting tomorrow, at 1:30 in the afternoon in the boardroom.
Okay. Media and Communications, Georgiana?
Yes, we had our last meeting in January, and the next one is on April 15th. That's a Monday at 1:30 in the boardroom. And for those who aren't that familiar, they're pretty much behind all of the publications here and the e-blasts and various presentations, plus the docent tour and new resident tour. And there have been changes there too, so far as how it's done and more efficiently now. That'll be less cost saving, but for some things where you don't need a bus, it's all been digitized, and so they're moving up on some of their efficiency.
Thank you. Okay. The mobility and vehicles, Nancy?
Yes, we also had a meeting in February, and it was the same report I had last month. We don't meet every month, and it was basically that we were approving the vehicle purchases. Not purchases, specifications for the vehicles.
Thank you. Okay. Security and community access, Maggie?
Yes, we met February 28th. We have a fee structure for new and non-returned ID cards. That's an important thing. So they're going to be monitoring that very closely and increase the fee for a non-GRF ID. Gate entry is an issue for non-residents. They have to prove purchase of a ticket. And the difficulty is the ads don't say must come with a resident or be with a resident in order to buy a ticket. So they're calling up and buying tickets, but they're not coming with a resident. So that's an issue for us, for GRF. And so they will have to work that out. They're going to have to provide proof of purchase at the gate in order to get in to use their ticket and to collect their ticket. And they can't just come into the gate because they say, hey, I'm buying a ticket to this. They have to be sponsored by a person to get in the gate. So this all has to be worked out. We also are outsourcing our emergency radio equipment installation. And it's more cost effective for us to do that outside than possibly inside. And so we have voted to do that. Keep a key on file. We had an issue where the key was not on file that the person thought they had on file, and then what? Well, then somebody has to pop the lock and shoot everything. But how do we know who you are? So you better have your ID on you. So get your key in the office, please. And so we're meeting again April 24th. Thank you.
You want to go into traffic hearings? Oh, good, okay, go ahead, Vidya.
So we met on March 20th, and the next hearing will be on April 17th.
Okay. You're going to meet next week?
Yes.
Okay, and then again in
It's
April?
monthly every.
Right, and then the hearings will follow. Okay, if there are any. Tony, disaster prep?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our last meeting was in March, and there was nothing earth-shaking about it. And our next meeting will be on May 28th here in the boardroom, 9:30, and it is a task force. Thank you.
Okay, and then IT, Nancy?
Yes, there was a meeting, and it was like listening to a foreign language. So for me, I learned a lot of things, but I was a little bit lost there. In essence, they were giving, fundamentally speaking in plain English, they were doing an update on the ERP program, which is Enterprise Resource Planning, which is a fancy word for saying making the systems coordinate.
Okay, that concludes then our committee reports. I think we're seeing some progress by moving some of these committee meetings to every other month and even quarterly. So hopefully this makes a more efficient use of everybody's time, especially staff in preparing for these. Pearl?
Yes. Well, I want to make a comment before we end this meeting.
Yes.
Although we made some very serious decisions today, as you see, this morning I was very impressed by VMS report. I know that they are trying every possible way to cut down our expenses. And although we have to borrow these huge funds from the reserve, we're trying to make the best possible decision to eliminate unnecessary charges or interest. So we are as concerned as all of you watching this meeting. And together we have to stay alert and do the best we can. So for now, I think decision has been made. I want everybody to rest a little bit and then get back again. And I really appreciate the VMS report this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Georgiana?
Oh, yes, I would just like to add something that I think Allison, in her email that she sends out related to what we're doing, also we'll be having some survey questions in it from time to time, not many at a time, but we want your feedback on certain things. So please, when you receive this, if you're on her list, then just go ahead and check your answers and send them back so that we can keep in touch and sort of see what you want. And like most of the rest of you, we'd like to see the expenses go down. And I do urge people to attend various meetings because while we may have certain control over what we spend, although not tons, there are other people who, whether it's amenities related or whatever, who are, excuse me, a fraud. Anyway. I would just urge you to attend some of the meetings of other groups that are spending money on certain things, and maybe you think they're worthwhile, or maybe you're thinking, well, I never use that, and they need to know that.
Thank you. Maggie?
Yes, I'd like to urge everyone to be sure to open and read the Friday messages we send out for you. Those are very important. And box message is also crucial. The one where you can keep your finger on the pulse is to take what you can get on your computer. You don't have to actually appear here. But if you go to your computer and read the agendas, and if you read her letter, and if you read the messages we send you, then you will get some clue as to what is going on. And we're all working very hard here. Thank you.
Wow. Ellen?
I want to remind everybody that nominations are open May 29th, and that the general manager's office will have the applications, and it will, you have to submit your candidate statement by June 28th. So we need you. Come and fill out an application. Thank you.
Okay. With that, future agenda items. We have one that will come up again, of course, the resolution regarding patio slabs. That's on 28 days. And otherwise, we will determine that as the month goes along. With that, we are recessed for lunch, and we will reconvene, let's call it 12:30, 12:35. Thank you all.